Now, even this gray background color, even though it's very neutral, it will have a little bit of that yellow into it. And that yellow cast helps harmonize with everything else in the piece. And so I will push it a little bit more towards some of the blues in some areas and violets, because it will create a little bit of a complementary color scheme going on. But it's not going to be like a strong violet. It will have that yellow undertone in it, so that it will kind of rein it back a little bit. It's more like a tonal style painting than it is maybe like the blood orange that we've done, which is more of a complementary color scheme. Now I'm going to knock the value back a little bit further so that we get more of a feeling of that area laying down a bit. By keeping it light all the way across, I think it was flattening out the space a little bit too much. So that's why I'm just kind of settling it back down just a bit more. Part of the reason too is to really get the light to feel quite bright on the subject. We want that yellow to really pop. And so going more mid-tone in that area will help it do that. Now, one thing you'll see is that there's a subtle difference between the value and temperature of the part of the flesh of the squash on the left-hand side versus the one on the right-hand side. You can see that the yellow is a little bit brighter, and that's because that part of the squash is facing more towards the light, and this other piece that's on the right hand side is facing a little bit further away, and so it's going to be just a little bit deeper in value and a little bit more of an orangey tone. Now, as I'm painting inside these fleshy parts where there's all the seeds and the little stringy kind of elements that are in the squash, I have to edit a lot of that out and really still think about the major shapes and the major planes, because you can get lost in some of that texture and detail and over render it. Okay, I fast forward a little bit because of some of the little tedious detail. And what I've done is just introduce some of the seeds along with the flesh and a little bit of a cooler note in some of those seeds so that it gives some relief to all the warm yellow and oranges that are in there. But I'm going to just continue work along this way and trying to get the right balance of detail and also just going back to some of these bigger shapes. So again, there's that back and forth at this point of how much detail do you put in and how much do you broaden things out. And I would always kind of side with the idea of broaden the shapes out and get more of the major shapes than worrying about so many of the little details.